We give all the glory to the Most High, High Yeshaya, and the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
We're going to do our credo, Deuteronomy 6:4.
Shema Yasharala Ahaya, Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. Shema Yasharala Ahaya, Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. Shema Yasharala Ahaya, Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power.
Our lesson tonight is going to be fear, stress, and psychology. This will be lesson number 8. We're going to do part 2, and then part 3 is going to be next week. We have our Fall Holy Day that's coming up September 7th. Day of Atonement, September 17th and the 18th. We have the Feast of Tabernacles. You must understand Satan, and you must understand his attack methods. There's a general adaptation syndrome. General adaptation syndrome is where stress is allowed to attack. You go into the alarm stage, resistance stage, and then there's exhaustion.
Hey, before we get started, we're going to read the prayer Manasseh. You read it. It's in the Apocrypha.
The prayer of Manasseh, king of Judah. O Lord, almighty, power of our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and of their righteous seed, who has made heaven and earth, with all the ornament thereof, who has bound the sea by the word of thy commandment, who has shut up the deep and sealed it by thy terrible and glorious name, whom all men fear and tremble before thy power. For the majesty of thy glory cannot be borne, and thine angry threatening toward sinners is importable. But thy merciful promise is unmeasurable and unsearchable. For thou art the most high Lord of great compassion, long-suffering, very merciful, and repentance of the evils of men. Thou, O Lord, according to thy great goodness, hast promised repentance and forgiveness to them that have sinned against thee, and of thine infinite mercies hast appointed repentance unto sinners, that they may be saved. Thou therefore, O Lord, art the power of the just, hast not appointed repentance to the just, as to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, which have not sinned against thee. But thou hast appointed repentance unto me that am a sinner. For I have sinned above the number of the sands of the sea. My transgressions, O Lord, are multiplied. My transgressions are multiplied, and I am not worthy to behold and see the height of heaven for the multitude of mine iniquities. I am bowed down with many iron bands, that I cannot lift up mine head, neither have any release. For I have provoked thy wrath and done evil before thee. I did not thy will, neither kept I thy commandments. I have set up abominations and have multiplied offenses. Now therefore I bow the knee of mine heart, beseeching thee of grace. I have sinned, O Lord, I have sinned, and I have acknowledged my iniquity. Wherefore I humbly beseech thee, forgive me, O Lord. Forgive me and destroy me not with mine iniquities. Be not angry with me forever, by reserving evil for me. Neither condemn me into the lower parts of the earth, for thou art the most high, even the power of them that repent. And in me thou wilt show all thy goodness, for thou wilt save me that am unworthy, according to thy great mercy. Therefore I will praise thee forever all the days of my life, for all the powers of the heavens do praise thee, and thine is the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Wow. So for those who hear and the people that's on live stream, we ask that you all pray for our ministry. We're going through a hard time right now, but we know that the Most High will get the victory. We know that Yeshua will get the victory. We know that the Holy Spirit will get the victory over this ministry. So we ask for you all prayers and to just lift us up before the Most High, to build us up and to help us to be stronger. There comes a time where, ministries are tried. They go through a lot. The devil attacks them left and right. So at this time, we ask for you all to just keep us in prayer and lift us up before the Most High, that we will come out victorious in this time of trial.
This is called stress and homeostasis. Homeostasis are viewed as specific response by the body to specific stimuli. Homeostasis fine-tunes the body. If the tuning is successful, then our internal body maintains a chemical uniform. Homeostasis is geared towards counteracting the stresses of living. So this is normal. This is what the Most High created. We are going to show what happens when things are not fine. If stress is extreme or unusual, the normal way of keeping the body in balance will not work. Unlike homeostasis, general adaptation syndrome, or GAS, does not maintain a constant internal environment. It does the opposite. When your body pressure and your sugar levels are raised above normal. When the hypothalamus senses stresses, it initiates a chain reaction, and that produces the GAS. The stresses in the body will be a disturbance, including strong emotional reactions. When a stressor appears, it stimulates the hypothalamus to stimulate the GAS in two ways. 2 Ezra chapter 13, verse 47.
Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 47. The highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace.
The first pathway is a stimulation of the nervous system and the adrenal. This stimulation produces immediate set of reactions, and it's called an alarm reaction. That's the first pathway. The second pathway is called the resistant reaction, which involves the interior pituitary gland. The resistance reaction is the slower, but it lasts longer. Then comes anxiety disorder, which is the first alarm or reaction. The alarm is fight or flight, and that response is the initial stressor. They're designed to counteract the danger of the body and immobilizing the bodies for immediate physical activity. Ecclesiasticus 28 and 13.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 28, verse 13. Curse the whisperer and double tongue, for such have destroyed many that were at peace.
Curse the whisper and the double tongue. The alarm reaction has tremendous amount of glucose and oxygen to the organs. And these organs are the brain, the skeletal muscles, and the heart. So that's what comes under attack. The heart rate and the strength of the cardiac muscle contraction are increased blood vessel supply. And with that, the heart and lungs undergo constriction. Thus, there's your stroke. Displaying counteracts and discharges of blood, liver, sugar. transforms amounts of glucogen into glucose, and therefore it attacks your liver. Stress increases, sweat increases, breathing increases, the production of saliva decreases, and this reaction is when the body is at its most stressful moment. Proverbs 17:22.
So does that have an anxiety attack?
That's not having an anxiety attack. That's how stress starts.
Proverbs chapter 17, verse 22. A merry heart doth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones.
So flight or flight, that's the second stage. And the third stage is exhaustion. So when the body is stressed, it compromises your nervous system, your heart, your brain, your lungs, your spleen, the blood vessels, and other parts of your body. So then the second part of stress happens, and that's where the psychology comes in. And this is how fear affects your life. You're afraid of your mother, father, husband, brother, sister. You're afraid of death. You're afraid of tomorrow. You're afraid of man. You're afraid of rejection. You're afraid of failure. You're afraid of change. You're afraid of everything. That's where fear comes in. So fear is everywhere. And this is not the worst that can happen. Sheol. Sheol is hell. Sheol is the abyss. Sheol is Abraham's bosom. All of those are Sheol. Sheol, hell, place of torment. The abyss is where hell and Abraham's bosom is. And then there's Abraham's bosom. All of that is called Sheol. Luke 16:22.
We have from ARW said, and just want to say to my elder and family, I always pray for you every day, and you will overcome in Yeshua name. That I have no doubt Satan will have no victory here at all. We are family. Amen. That's right. Thanks for the encouragement. Hey, go pray that night terror out of her.
Luke 16:22.
Luke chapter 16, verse 22. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torment, and seeth Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom.
So a stressor is anything that causes fear in your life. That's what a stressor is. We're going to see what parts of the body one stressor can do, and one stressor, and what long-term effect this one stressor can have. The hypothalamus integrates the response to fear. The nervous system becomes involved. The heart is beating, and the food in your stomach is moving all around the place. This is happening despite you praying, because the long-term effect of the stressor has already taken over your body. So, constipation and diarrhea, that is attached with fear. Constipation and diarrhea, the fruits is anxiety and fear. There's a decrease of dehydration, bile acids form up, and then the long-term liver is affected, and then the pancreas. All that is affected because diarrhea and constipation, because of fear and anxiety, and because of stress. Then there's cortisol. Cortisol is very strong when it comes to stress. And cortisol does the opposite of what everybody thinks it does. Cortisol is important in the fight or flight, but it's present in your long-term basis. It will destroy your immune system.
So what is that, like when people have pain in the knees, isn't that they give them cortisone shots?
I don't know.
I believe so. I think it's called that.
I thought it was collagen.
It's cortisol. And then they tell you if you get it too much, it will start being harmful. It will start being more harmful than good.
Is that why they have you get it like once every 2 years, something like that?
No, a couple of months. Remember, I used to get them in my
Oh, yeah,
knees.
you're right.
I used to get them shots in my knees. And I thought it was called cortisol.
That's not cortisol. Cortisol?
It's not?
I don't know what it is.
I thought it was.
But cortisol in the body over a long period of time, it will attack your immune system. What the Most High created for us to help fight an enemy has now turned on us, and it becomes the destroyer in your body. That's what happens with cortisol, and that's why the T cells do not react when you are involved in stress, because cortisol is part of the body. And because cortisol is part of the body, the T cell does not see it as an enemy.
That's a threat, yeah.
Cortisol influences the immune responses to antibodies that are in your body and attacks and attempts to destroy the T cells in your body. That's what cortisol does. The effects of cortisol in your body: decreased metabolism, depression, hypertension, chronic fatigue, sleep deprivation, migraines, tunnel vision, acid reflux, hostility, hunger, and arthritis. Your immune system is decreased. So any of these characteristics means that the cortisol in your body is way too high, because the cortisol is a stress hormone that can destroy you.
What if you're a person, you have all of those right now?
Then you're close to death. First Ezra 8:85.
See, I told you they give you that for shots in the knees.
First Ezra chapter 8, verse 85. Moreover, you shall never seek to have peace with them, that ye may be strong, and eat the good things of the land, and that you may leave the inheritance of the land unto your children forevermore.
Right? So cortisol attacks the muscles, it attacks the pancreas, it attacks the bone, it attacks the liver. Cortisol, when the stress is elevated in your body. Typical cortisol, if you are in an accident, your cortisol raises because the body tenses itself up to protect itself. That's normal. But if you continue on and you continue to operate with stress in your life, cortisol happens, and you wonder why these things happen to you. You wonder why you don't eat. You wonder why depression comes on. You wonder why hypertension is coming. That everything that you just tense about everything. Chronic fatigue, you're always tired, right? Sleep deprivation is because of chronic fatigue. You always are having migraines. You always are having tunnel vision, where they call it vertigo. You have acid reflux, and you can't get rid of it. You have hostility in your life. You have hunger issues. You always are eating. Arthritis issues, stuff that's in your joints. Decreased immune system. You always are sneezing or you have allergies. Any of these are long-term effect of stress and high levels of cortisol in your body. And there isn't medication to get the cortisol level down. You have to stop the stress. Stress response system, the brain, the hypothalamus starts to react. ACTH levels start to go up. The adrenal glands start to activate. Your heart level increases. When your heart level increases, the blood pressure increases. When the blood pressure increases, the stomach starts to activate. That causes ulcers in the stomach because the stomach is not doing what it's supposed to do. Then your liver, which starts to convert more of the glucose than what it should create. It increases the glucose levels in your body, which goes into the bloodstream, which causes bronchial tubes to react and go in and out and in and out. This is what stress does. And this is a killer. But why is this? People who deal with stress do not have faith. It's just that simple. No way all this stuff is going to be acting up in your body and going off in your body, and you say that you're dealing with faith. There's no way possible. Some way, somehow, your faith system has been compromised. Some way, somehow, your faith system has been compromised. And you can say that you have faith, but if you're dealing with stress, any level of stress, then you're not faithful. Any level of stress that you're dealing with, you are not faithful. Then you have this thing, general adaptation syndrome. Because what's happening is that your body is adapting to the stress. That's why you can't get rid of certain ailments, because your body is reacting to the stress. And now your body, which used to resist the stress, now it's not resisting the stress anymore. This is why you are having this problem. This is why specific stimuli is being generated in your body. This is why the chemical blueprint that is in your body is not in your body anymore. From what used to be a small stressor, and because that small stressor has not been dealt with, or it's been pushed under the rug, or the person has not just stopped with the stress, it continues on and it builds up and it attacks the body.
But before someone gets to this stage, they had to have been dealing with stress for a long time. So how can we just say stop the stress? Just have faith and just stop the stress. There has to be some type of work has to be done, as far as that person has to change not only a mindset, but a heart set change as well. And then the things that is stressing that person out, they have to deal with that. They have to do something about it. They can't just allow the things to continue to happen. They have to confront them and deal with the things that's stressing them out.
They have to confront it and deal with it, but a lot of people unfortunately don't confront it and deal with it. It's the way of life. But yes, once it gets to this stage, it's been going on for years and years and years. And your fight is even harder now, because now your cortisol level, or the normal chemical balance of the body is compromised at this point.
Yeah.
Because years and years of stress, years and years of worry, years and years of anxiety. So it's not just that easy to stop with the stressors, but you gotta stop with the stressors. Even though it's not that easy, you have to stop, because your body is not gonna stop. Your body is going to continue on and on and on. You may wanna stop the stressor, but the chemical imbalance in your body has already started a chain reaction in your body.
So what if you confront the stress and the stressors feel like that they're not stressing you? Then what do?
If they feel like they're not stressing you, then it's still on you as the individual, because their bodies are not being compromised with the stress. Your body is. So you have to do what you got to do. Your body is the one that's being compromised. Your body is the one where the cortisol levels are through the roof. Your body is the one where your immune system is being attacked. Your body is the one going through extreme, unusual chemical imbalance. Your body is the one who's adapting to this. Your body is the one that's allowing this chain reaction to go through.
And for the ladies, one thing I don't think Shepard mentioned, that when you're dealing with stress, he showed how you can have the bumps, male and female, in your private area. But for women, when you're dealing with stress, you can start bleeding from the breast. By that time, it's very serious. A situation will come up and you start noticing you having blood on your undergarments. That's when you know that you are really stressed, that it has affected you to the point where you're bleeding from your breast.
What stress does is it takes the normal chemicals in your body and it turns the normal chemicals in your body against your body. You're fighting against yourself when it gets to this point. The hypothalamus is the trigger. It's the trigger because it causes a chain reaction. And we always grab the back of our neck when we're in stress and we're in pain. The back of your neck is not where the pain is coming from. It's coming from this little bitty gland that's right up in here. The cortisol levels in your body has elevated. Your immune system is compromised. And when your immune system is compromised, that's it. This is a very, very serious, and I don't know if it's being taken serious or not, but this is very, very serious when you're dealing with stress.
I had an auntie that she dealt with stress and hypertension, and you knew when she was stressing out because all of her hair and her temple right here would just be bald. It's like it would just drop out of her hair. She had really long, pretty hair. And then when she would go through stress, it would, all her hair right here, all this would just fall out, bald, like clean. There was no hair there.
It's hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
We don't understand what the body does and negative emotions and what that does to the body.
And it was strange because she was.
I have a headache right now.
Maybe a meet you some type.
I have nothing to do with the meat.
We need to pray that out.
What are some of the ways that you can overcome a stress? First thing, you got to recognize that it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
If you know that something is seriously wrong, the fastest way to solution is admit you have a problem. The people who are outside of you are not the problem. You are the problem because you are the one that's caused with the stress.
You allow.
You are allowing this stress to come in. You are allowing this thing, and you don't admit to that problem. You blame or point the finger at everybody else. It's not easy to admit you're barely hanging on by a thread. Psalms 32:2. Psalms 32:2. Blessed is the man unto whom the Lord imputeth not iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no God. Give yourself a break. That's number 2. Give yourself a break. Get some help. Stop beating yourself up. You're human. You're a person. We all are people. We all have to understand and know. We have limitations. We have expectations. But we all are people. Not everybody is perfect. Some of us, we may claim to be perfect, but we are all not perfect.
We're striving to be.
We still have things that we deal with. If you're sick or working through some type of loss or tragedy, you may need to step back from your normal responsibilities. And that's another thing. When you're dealing with stress and you continue to deal with stress, the normal things that you go through, you have to step back from some of those things. You have to give yourself time to be able to heal. You cannot continue to go on. Well, I got to do this. I got to continue to do that. When you're dealing with stressors in your life and you continue to operate in whatever it is, I still got to do this. I still got to do that. I still got to do this. You're not taking time for your body to heal, and that cortisol level is not going to go away.
So we're talking about, we say that for the average person, right? But what about, we know as being, if you're a shepherd, an elder, a deacon in a ministry, and you have teachings to do, you have other people that need ministering to. Do you supposed to step back from that?
If you do not step back from it, your body is not going to say, oh, well, you got ministry stuff to do, you got a job to do, you got this to do. Your body is not going to do that.
But
you
Yeshaya didn't do that. He didn't.
Yeshaya is different. Yeshaya didn't deal with stress. We deal with stress. Yeshaya did not deal with stress. We deal with stress.
We shouldn't deal with stress. We have this truth. We know what to do. We know about the spirit world. We know what to do, how to pray.
Yeah.
We know what to do to get rid of the stress.
Yes.
So
why is it not happening?
Because at this point, a person is not doing what they need to do to get set free. They're allowing that stress and that stressor to continue to operate in their lives. They're not dealing with it.
Because they don't take a break. Sometimes you have to take a break.
So if
you have to sit back. You have to get in that place where you take a break. Because I'm going to tell you something. As you continue on and you don't take a break and you don't stop, and I'm not saying, okay, you're going to stop doing whatever it is that you need to do. What I'm saying is that you have to find time to stop all the stuff that's going on in your life, sit down, have some quiet time, because your body is not going to stop. The chain reaction in your body is going to keep going on and on and on. It's not going to stop. When you're at this point, you may not even be going through stress at this point, but the chemicals in your body are already compromised. So if you don't rest yourself, if you don't take a step back, the chemical imbalance in your body is going to continue. It's just like as if you get a burn on your body, on your arm. You're not going to put what caused the burn, you're not going to continue to put that on your arm. You're going to allow that arm to heal itself from the burn. Stress is the same thing. If you continue on and you don't address the stress, it's going to cause sickness in it's going to lead to death. Because we don't see the underlying chemical, psychological, we don't see the underlying, we don't see our cortisol levels being raised up. We don't see that. Stress is a silent killer. We may think, well, I'm just tired right now. I'm just tired, but I'm going to keep going. I'm tired, but I'm going to keep moving. I gotta keep moving. That's the core. That's what's triggering the stress in the body. It's continually operating. If you don't say, you know what, I need to sit down. I need to take a couple hours. I need to relax myself. If you don't allow that to happen, then there's all types of sicknesses and diseases that are going to come. I'm not saying step away from what you got to do. What I'm saying though is take a break, step back. Whatever it is, it can wait. Number 3, you have to turn to the Most High in prayer. But how can you turn to the Most High in prayer if you're constantly doing, and you're constantly going, and you're stressed out. You're stressed out. You're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing that, this, and that. And you haven't sat down. You haven't confronted the stress that's inside of you. You're overcome with anxiety. You're overcome with stress. You have to turn to the Most High. You must turn to the Most High. When we're at this point, you have dealt with stress probably your entire life.
Yeah, even kids can be stressed out.
The difference with children is that they don't have this level. This is not child level. A child, if they've been in stress 2-3 years, they've been stressed out. It's not at this point yet. It's getting there. This is for us adults. But stress has to go from everywhere because that little seed of stress, let's just say a child does get stressed.
Well, we pray for a 3-year-old that
Right.
had anxiety.
Let's say
and
a
stress.
child does get stressed, right?
Mhm.
And they get anxiety.
Mhm.
Eventually, it will lead to some stress, to some childhood diseases.
The nail biting and
The nail biting, the
pick-
wetting in the bed,
yeah, the picking, yeah, pick their hand, yeah.
all of that. But there's not diseases yet.
Yeah.
But they're coming if it's not dealt with. What we're talking about right now is us adults who have been in stress 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And your body just cannot take that anymore.
You know, it's like when someone is dealing with stress and anxiety, even when you lay down at night when you're sleeping, you can feel it being pulled through your veins, through your arms and through your legs. It's like some kind of pressure that's being pulled, like you're being pulled. And that's anxiety and stress.
That's anxiety, that's stress, that's hypertension.
Yeah.
And it happens at night. So there's chronic fatigue during the day. And when there's chronic fatigue, you're not getting sleep at night. You're staying up all hours of the night when you're supposed to be resting. All hours of night when you're supposed to be resting. When you're supposed to, the body has to rest itself.
And one thing I had read, I got an article, and it said the worst thing you can do is this. When you lay in the bed at night like this,
get on those phones.
That's the worst. It's messing up your eyesight, and it messes with your rest. And I'm guilty of that. I do that a lot. I read the article earlier this week, so I've been trying not to do it. So instead of going to sleep at 12:01, I've been actually trying to go to bed at 9:30, no later than 10 o'clock, and not looking up different articles and different things on psychology and, just information. You at some point you got to turn it off.
This comes in at.
Yeah.
This is where this comes in at. You're not giving yourself a break. I could care less what has to happen. Because if you die of hypertension, it's a wrap. I could care less who needs what or what needs what or whatever the case may be. You have to give yourself a break. And this is what I mean, step back from your normal responsibility. Give yourself time and space to heal, because if you continue the levels, all the chemical imbalances that's in your body, which there's some that we haven't even talked about yet, all these chemical imbalances that happen in your body, it's not going to stop. It's going to get worse.
And I don't know if this happened to men, but I know for myself and for women I have talked to, it's racing thoughts. It's one after the other. One, it goes. Before you can finish one thought, something else is in. And to the point sometimes you just like, you feel anxiety, like, but that's when you have to pray and you have to come against all those thoughts, because the devil is shooting that so you can be stressed out, so you can't get any rest. But it's the racing thoughts. I got to do this. I got to do that. Oh man, I need to get up right now. Because I have been knocked out sleep. And then I find myself getting up. I got to do this. Wait. And then you have to wait a minute. That can wait, because you feel anxious. Like, I got to do it. I got to get up and do this. And you got to wait a minute. That don't need to be done right now. That's not important right now. What's important is that I need to get my rest.
When your body is like this, nothing is important.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have never seen a corpse continue to work and operate and bounce around like a ping pong ball. I have never seen a corpse do that. I don't care how many movies they create with zombies running around. That's not real. But I've never seen a corpse continue to work and bounce around. The stress must go, and it must go very, very quickly. We haven't even gotten to, which maybe it'll be next week when we continue on with fear and stress. But we haven't even gotten to what happens to your body. Diarrhea is a cause of stress.
And it's something.
And I'm not talking about, well, you ate something bad and your body is chemically reacting to what you ate bad. That's something different. But if you haven't ate anything bad, or you haven't ate anything that's spoiled, and you have chronic diarrhea or chronic constipation, that is stress. Your body levels are not right. And believe it or not, diarrhea is a telltale sign for all of these.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them.
That acid reflux is bad, because when acid comes up, it gets in your lungs. And it can cause, what is this, cancer in your esophagus with that acid reflux. And it gets in your lungs. And you can be sick and you'll feel bad. You turn like a pasty color, or even if you're dark skinned, it doesn't matter. It makes you sick when that acid comes up. And you'll be sick for a week.
This is all because the stress in your body. It's not because of the foods that you eat. Unfortunately, medical science does
they
not
say
have
it's
that
a
right.
flap. It's a flap that's supposed to keep
The flap
the
has been compromised.
Yeah.
The flap that's supposed to protect you, that's been compromised now. That's where the acid reflux comes in. It's the cortisol, and it's the stress that's in your body. It's not because of chocolate.
A peppermint.
Or peppermint or anything like that.
Foods.
The cortisol has been compromised in your body. That's why you deal with acid reflux. Or better yet, that's why you deal with all of these.
But a lot of people have been molested and raped as children, and that can throw you into a stress and anxiety as well.
If you don't get rid of it, if you don't forgive the person, yes. Yes. And I'm not saying that you should, yes, I am saying, You should forgive the person, and that's it. Don't go back and revisit. Don't go back and, oh, I'm just opening up doors and I want to get them closed and all this other stuff. No, 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 no,
Open
no.
up doors, I want to get them closed.
No, 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 no. People who have been molested and abused, it's a horrible act. It's a vicious,
That's fear.
downgrading act. The fear comes in, but that's what triggers it, the fear and the stress. And as a child, yes. But as an adult, you hold that in. And because you hold that in, all kinds of stuff is going on inside your body because your body is not to hold anything negative. If it holds anything negative, you start to feel sick.
But you know, at this point, yeah, it's just if you get molested or raped or some kind of terrible act has happened to you. Throughout your life, Satan is going to make sure he sends somebody to keep that craziness going. Because it's very rare that somebody has been raped just one time or molested one time.
That is rare.
Because usually if you get raped, it happen again or get molested again or the same
It
person.
happens at least 2 or 3 times in
Yeah.
your life. Minimum.
It's like that spirit is on you and it attracts people that do those type of things to you.
Correct.
So you're going to grow up with fear and anxiety. You're going to have trust issues.
Correct.
And
yeah, you're going to do that, but you got to get rid of it because that stuff,
it can kill you.
it can kill you.
But
Why don't what you're doing, let me tell you what you're doing to yourself. Get yourself some type of chemical from a cleanser and drink it. The quick effect is what happens to your body is the chemicals in your body starts to burn in the body. What you're doing by holding stress, anxiety, anger, and fear, you're doing that, but you're doing it over a long period of time. So when you're dealing with hypertension, chronic fatigue, gout, what is the other ones? Acid reflux. You're dealing with all that stuff because of the fact that the stressors have got to a point where your body is being compromised and your body is turning against you. That's what's happening. We talk about eating, we talk about coming against foods with GMOs and all that. But yet and still, you talk about how you're coming against foods with GMOs, but you're dealing with stress in your life and you're dealing with anxiety. You might as well have a GMO pizza because that's what's happening to your body.
See, a lot of people don't want to deal with it because if you're dealing with stress and if it's people in your life that's stressing you out, but if you love those people, some kind of way you may still love them, and you tell these people and these people don't change, they continue to do the things that stress you out, then what are you to do? You will have to get rid of those people. You will have to get that stress out of your life. And a lot of people sacrifice themselves before they will put their loved ones out of their life. So those are hard choices.
It's not a hard.
It's not a hard choice if you want to live.
It's not a hard choice if you want to live. I mean, if you want to live, it's not a hard choice. You say, okay, you know what? We have tried this. It's not working. I went to you. We've talked. The stress is still there. I'm still being stressed. You're still causing it. You got to cut them loose. Or the flip side, Maybe the person just don't have the mental faculties to say, well, am I really stressing you out? But regardless, it's still on the person who's holding the stress. It's still on the person who's holding the stress. Philippians 4, 6 and 7.
Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto the Most High. And the peace of power, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Yeshua HaMashiach.
Right. So let me say something, right? Today was probably one of the most stressful days that I have had in a long time, a very long time. And sometimes a stressful day, right? It triggers bad conversations that shouldn't be said, or it triggers bad thoughts, it triggers bad emotions, it triggers bad feelings. Like I said, we are all flesh and blood. We have organs, we have brain, we have chemicals in our body. We go through things. And yes, it probably has been shown. It probably showed that when I first started this lesson, I was still going through. Still going through. If you don't want nobody that's not transparent, then you're in the wrong place. Still going through. But something inside of me has to step back. Not to say that when the lesson is over with, that it's not going to be dealt with, because it is going to be dealt with. But we have to be set free. We have to be set free. It can't continue. Because you can take one step and hypertension, stress, all of this stuff here can lead to something that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Aneurysm. These, believe it or not, are minor. These are minor. When you get to the next level, strokes, aneurysms, heart attacks.
You know, not this week, but last week we went to the farmer's market. I don't know if I said it on live stream or not. And there was this 80-year-old woman sitting on, what was she sitting on, like a crate or something? And she fell backwards. She's 80 years old, but her daughter was being so mean to her. Like, Mom, my customers come before you. Apparently this woman's mouth had been numb. She was threatening a stroke all day, and she was trying to get her daughter to give her a chair because she was feeling dizzy, and her mouth was numb, and her left arm was numb.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
What was the stress? Who was the stressor?
Her daughter.
Okay, let's go ahead.
It was her daughter. And I said, everybody know how I am. And I was like, the scripture says to honor your father and your mother. And I said it out loud. I said, you're going to pay for treating your mother like that. Like you're wrong. As this woman was saying, hurry up, get me a chair. She said, Mom, my customers come first. I almost passed out. We took a couple of steps forward. The next thing I know, this woman was on the ground and she was breathing funny and her left arm was twitching.
Stroke.
And I said, I'm telling this woman was still selling apples and strawberries. I'm like, is your mother okay? Oh, she's fine. This woman laying on the ground, she did not go to her mother. Mom, I would have been like, what's going on? And so Another lady that was shopping called the paramedics, and they had the table blocking. And this woman, she's like breathing, trying to gasp for air. Her hands is jumping. I just threw the table. I told her daughter, I said, get out my way, move, move. And I pushed the table and I ran over there and I asked her, is she okay? And she couldn't speak. She was like, no. And because I thank the Most High and the Holy Spirit for wisdom, but her daughter did say earlier, oh, she has a history of strokes. So when I went over there, I knew what was happening to her because of the signs. And I grabbed both of her arms and I started telling her that Yeshua loved her and that she's going to be fine. And I said, are you hurt? She said the back of her neck and she said her stomach felt like she had to throw up.
The back of the neck.
Yeah. And I started praying for her. And I was telling the devil, you're not going to take my sister, and I started going in and I started touching her stomach. And she said, okay, she didn't have to throw up anymore. And I started touching her head and her back because she said her back was paining as well. And I told her, I said, when you get up from here, you're going to be better than what you were. I said, he loves you. He's going to protect you. He's going to be there for you. You have to believe. And she said, oh, I believe. And I said, you must believe. And I told her name was Carol, I said, you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
When the paramedics came, they asked her, are you okay? If anything hurt on you? She said, no, I don't need to go to the hospital. But of course, by her being 80 years old, they took her anyway. But this woman, she was sitting on some crates, was like, they were kind of hot, and she fell back. 80 years old, usually 80-year-olds have broken bones.
Right.
But when I was praying for her, my hands got so hot and turned red like fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started praying for her because guess what? This woman was laying on the ground by herself and her daughter was over at the table still selling fruit. She did not even have the love in her to go and kneel down beside her mother and take care of her mother.
Well, the Bible says that the love is going to be wax cold.
I was so upset. I cried because I was so upset. And I didn't even know these people, but I cried for that woman because how her daughter treated her. And I told her, you're not alone. You must believe. I told her, don't be afraid. The Lord is with you. The Holy Spirit is with you. Don't be afraid. When she got up from there, she got up. Before the paramedics came, Miller was with me. Before the paramedics came, she started trying to get up on her own. Because the Holy Spirit healed her. But I told her, I said, you're dealing with emotional illness, you're dealing with anger, inner anger. And she said, no. And I said, Carol, yes, you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you are. Because and I told her, your daughter's not treating you right. And she just looked at me. I said, but guess what? I said, the Lord is going to take care of her for how she treated you. Yeah, it was sad. But that's what I was asking you. When you have people in your life that's stressing you out, you know what I'm saying? That lady, 80 years old, she shouldn't have been out at that market. She shouldn't have to be out there selling none. She should have been at home.
If she was to be out there, it'd be because she wanted to be out there. Not because she had to or was dragged. Because just because you're 80 years old don't mean you're handicapped. Oh, there's a lot of people in their 80s and 90s, even in their hundreds, are still active.
But look, this woman looked like she was about 60. Because Amelia, when they was talking to the paramedics, and Amelia was like, maybe she's 60 years old. And the daughter said, no, my mom is 80. We was like, whoa, she didn't even look 80 years old.
Mm. The thing with that is that.
That's why I was asking you, when you have people in your life, and so a lot of people don't realize that strokes come from emotional illness, inner anger, you're emotional. Heart attacks come from like anger and hypertension and rah, like that. But stroke, that's why they say the silent killer. Because you're dealing with all this stuff and you don't know it.
But where does it trigger? Where does it start? Stress. It starts with stress.
Emotional illness, that's what stress is.
It starts with stress. Everything starts with stress. Yeah. Fear and stress, they both work together. And that's where it starts at.
But why is it stress though? Stress, you stress out because things happen in your life and you don't deal with them. You let it go. You're passive. You're passive aggressive. You let it happen. You take it. You try to make it better. You take it. And by the time it's too late, you're angry. And anger is the worst anger to have. All anger is bad. But inner anger, like we always say, inner anger is the one that go and shoot up the schools, shoot up the jobs. The inner anger is the one people take out their whole family because they stressed out and they can't pay the bills, they can't feed everybody, and they get upset and they stress out. So in their mind, I just kill everybody and I ain't gotta worry about feeding everybody. That's what it is.
And stress can be triggered by the most smallest acts, right? The most smallest acts can trigger stress. Wife picks her husband's dinner. And let's say one of the vegetables, I don't know, something's wrong with one of the vegetables. Let's say he has a mixture of peas and corn and carrots.
The California blend.
California blend, right. And the California blend isn't cooked all the way or something like that. One small act of whatever the case may be triggers the stress in the husband. The husband gets a rifle, shoots everybody in the house, then turns the gun on himself because that stressor then already kicked in. So now because the act has been done, the stress is gone. Then realization comes to play. Stress is nothing to joke around with. Stress is nothing to play around with. We have to get rid of it. If that means getting rid of your most cherished loved one because you have went to that cherished loved one and said, "You're stressing me out." And their behavior does not stop.
Let's be fair.
You have to do what is right.
Be fair. Give them a chance to change.
Of course, you don't say after the first time, "You're stressing me out. Get out of my life and never come back again." That's not right. Because then that spirit is going to go on someone else. And you're going to have to deal with someone else just like you did when you cast away that loved one. And that person's going to be worse. So you have to deal with it. Let's get Isaiah 61. The Most High promises to give us peace beyond our ability to understand. He also promises to create beauty from ashes. Read that.
Isaiah chapter 61, verse 1. The Spirit of the Lord power is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our power, to comfort all that mourn.
The person who are bound, you are bound. Stress binds you up. Like I said, you may be in your 20s and you don't feel anything wrong with your health, but I guarantee you, you're not going to make it to 40 if you continue to have stress in your life. if you don't take some steps back, step back. Let's finish.
Verse 3, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. And they shall build the old waste, they shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations.
It's talking about you. And it's talking about getting rid of that stress. Because when you get rid of the stress, verse 3, that applies for you. Don't get rid of the stress, then there's a pine box waiting. The next thing you have to do is you have to meditate on the word. And this is why I say over and over again, every single day you should be in your Bible. Every single day. Not just on the Shabbat, not just when you're studying or whatever it is that you're doing. Every single day you should be meditating on that word. It doesn't matter whether it's in the morning, it doesn't matter whether it's in the evening, every single day. You have to do all four of the steps that we have talked about thus far. If you want to get that silent killer out of your body, because that's what it is. Stress is not some disease that goes through the body. Stress is not like cancer. Stress is like carbon dioxide. You can't smell it, but its effects is very, very deadly. You can't smell it. There could be a leak going on right now, and we just breathe it, and we don't, there's nothing. The moment you go to sleep, that's it.
I remember in the 80s, late 70s and 80s, a lot of families was dying from that. Because in the winter,
CO2.
it was in the cold states, and they would have like these portable heaters where they heat and stuff, the furnace, and it was leaking, the carbon monoxide.
Yeah, monoxide, right?
Yeah.
So this is what stress is like carbon monoxide. Stress is not like gas. If you got a gas, you're gonna smell it. There's a leak in your gas stove, you're gonna smell it. If there's a leak in your gas furnace, you're gonna smell it. You're gonna say, oh wait, that's gas. We gotta do something, we gotta open up the windows, we gotta air this out. Cancer is seen, it's detected. Diabetes, it's detected. Stress is not detected.
Unless you're looking for it.
They can't stick a needle in you and see how much stress you're dealing with. They can't take, even with your blood pressure, they cannot gauge based off of high blood pressure on how much stress you're dealing with and what has already happened to you, to your body internally.
That's why people that are dealing with stress, they have to go to counseling. They have to have what they call now a life coach, or they have to have a psychologist. Like they have to go to someone and talk about the things that they're dealing with, and they have to get ways on how to deal with things and communicate positively and effectively.
Right.
And they have to also learn how to avoid these stressful situations so you won't find yourself back in them again.
Correct.
So it takes work. You have to work at it. You just can't sit back and say, oh, a higher, in the name of Yeshua, deliver me from this spirit, this demon of stress. No, there's different things that you have to change your life. You have to change your way of thinking. You have to change your way of receiving information. Like when someone is talking to you, you can't receive or have negative thoughts. You know,
Those are stressors.
yeah, you have to learn how to deal with it. And I know in psychology they tell you, oh, like they taught us to teach people how to cope with something. No, I'm not coping with anything because I know the truth. I'm going to get rid of what's going on.
You cope with stress, you're dead.
It's not like coping. You may listen to ocean waves or what's that, the white noise. And no,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, those issues are still going to be there when you get through listening to that.
Right. The issues will still be there if that's what you're solely depending on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, water, the sound of water, soothing. If you got to take a break, put on some waterfall music or something.
You remember when we first moved to Arizona, we had that really big bedroom. And so we put a fish tank in there. We went and got a fish tank with the filters and the lights. And we had all these pretty fish.
Believe it or not, fish are therapeutic when you're not killing them. Fish is very therapeutic, especially when a person's dealing with stress, because the fish take away the stress. Because you're sitting there, first of all, water calms people. Water has an amazing effect on people, right? Water has an amazing effect on people. If everybody has a cell phone and everybody goes on YouTube, go on YouTube and find water, some type of waterfall or some type of water sound. And I guarantee you within the next 3 minutes, after you take some deep breaths in and out, in 3 minutes, all that stuff is just going to start melting away.
You know,
and when it melts away, let me tell you what's happening to your body.
Okay.
The cortisol levels, the imbalance of the cortisol levels, right, are now coming together.
Hey, let's put a little essential oil in there too.
Of course.
Oh yeah, get you some
well, the ones
lemongrass.
that calm you, not the ones that drive you up.
So like lemongrass is calming, and what is the other one? Lavender. Yeah. So you have to work at it because you just spent all these years being built up and just stacking stressors on top of stressors. Now you gotta work to get that down. And I used to always have essential oils every night, and I have slacked off. But I'm going to start back with my essential oils again.
But there's a lot of things that you have to do. Deliverance. Mm-hmm. You got to get rid of the spirits. And it's not the spirit of stress. So don't go, I command you the spirit of stress. It's not the spirit of stress. And in fact, let me say this. There's no such thing as a spirit of stress. No such thing. There's not a demon called stress coming in and giving you stress, anxiety. There is a spirit of anxiety. There is a spirit of fear.
Unforgiveness.
There is a spirit of unforgiveness. There is not a spirit of stress. Never was a spirit of stress.
That's what the world calls them. But the Bible calls them the spirit of fear. It's the spirit of doubt. It's the spirit of fear. Fear and stress go together. Doubt, no, not having faith. Because something has happened in your life and has triggered where you used to have faith, but now you don't. That's what it is. 2
Peter 1 and 3.
2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. According as his divine power hath given unto us all things that pertain unto life and good godliness through the knowledge of him that hath called us to glory and virtue.
He has called you to glory in his virtue. And virtue. But if you're dealing with stress, 2 Peter 3, 1 and 3 don't apply to you. Matthew 11. And Yeshua is telling you. So there is no excuse for a person whom, now let me say this, a person whom is, whoever is watching this video, there is no, there is, after this video, after you have watched this, there's no way that you should be continually going in stress. You should be trying to do certain things to stop the stress. You can't cope with stress. I'm sorry, you cannot do that. That's like telling an alcoholic to live above a liquor store and stress with and cope with the alcohol
Coexist.
that's coexist and cope with the alcohol that's right below his feet. That's not sensible. That's not sensible to put someone who's a pedophile and let them live next door to a elementary school and say, you just cope with them little boys and girls going to school. And you just coexist with them little boys and girls going to school, even though your little pee-pee is getting hard by seeing little girls and boys going to school. You just cope with that. No, you cannot do that.
That's why I said when in psychology, they train us to help people to cope with it. But because by this time, before I started school, we were in a deliverance ministry. So I knew that wasn't right.
You can't.
You can't.
You can't cope with demons. It just don't
You
work.
gotta get set free.
Matthew 11. Let's read.
Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
His yoke is easy. His burden is light. You are carrying too much stuff. Your shoulders look like you're a linebacker. You got all kinds of stuff on your shoulder. It look like you're wearing shoulder pads.
And it will happen. It
In
will.
the 80s, it was fashion that the women wore shoulder pads. For what reason, I don't know.
I used to wear shoulder pads.
The shoulder pads were sewn into the shirt,
Yeah.
and they would have their shoulder pads looking all like this.
That's probably was that part of that, what was that, woman movement?
I don't know, but they
The
had the
feminist, so you
shoulder
could have
pads
shoulders
on.
like a man.
And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a person who physically have all kinds of issues and problems, and other people issues and problems all on their shoulders. And they refuse to let it go because they don't want to take a break.
So look, I saw a lady yesterday at the store, and she was bent all the way like this over.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the Bible. Remember that lady for 18 years?
Correct.
And that was a spirit of
Infirmary.
So when somebody is bent over like that,
Infirmary.
so
But they were dealing with stress.
whoever she was dealing with, because she was old, and she was all the way down, and she had to look up like this, and she was walking. And I said, that woman has been carrying everybody's burden. Yeah?
John 14.
John chapter 14, verse 27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid.
Let your heart not be troubled. Dealing with stress, your heart's troubled.
Mm-hmm.
Dealing with stress, you are afraid.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sit up there and say, well, I'm not dealing with stress. I'm not being fearful of anything. Yes, you are. And you're not admitting to it. So all this stuff that's going on in your body, eventually it's going to lead to some very debilitating diseases, not diseases, because the things that are debilitating, we're going to go over them. That's not a disease. That's the final curtain. Psalms 4 and 8.
Psalms chapter 4, verse 8. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety.
I will lay down in peace. See, these right here, I know I keep going back here. These are not the final curtain calls. These are the steps to the final curtain call. We're going to see what the final curtain call is. The fifth thing that you should do, spend time giving thanks and praise. Praise and worship takes your mind off of yourselves and your problems. You begin to praise the Most High. Your problems seem to be smaller and smaller. Music is soothing. Be careful though, because a lot of people put different things in music. And what you think is praise music comes out to be something that Satan is saying backwards, praising the devil backwards. Be very careful on what praise music or what music that you're listening to.
Well, we should be listening to music that's worshiping or praising a higher or something like that. We shouldn't be listening to, I know some people like listening to like jazz and all that.
That's fine.
Because-
Instrumentals, I mean, they're not praising. I mean, instrumentals, those are fine depending on what it's about.
Sometimes, and maybe Amelia can tell us, that different tones are used as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, we did a study in my high school about the tones in music, and they showed of course, when the beat is faster, it raises your heartbeat, but when the beat is slower, it slows down your heartbeat.
So like if someone is playing a harp,
Yes, that'll slow down your heartbeat.
slow it down,
Which brings on calming, thus rest and sleep and all that.
versus a electric guitar.
Really?
It's gonna make you feel, you know,
Like you want to scream and shout, yeah!
Yeah.
I scream, yeah.
Okay, let's look at some things. Your cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular, that's your heart, your lungs. I'm sorry, not your lungs. It's your heart, it's your veins, your arteries. Spiritual root, fear, stress, and anxiety. Angina, it's a disease where painful suffocation and spasms start to happen. So we went to this step right here. This is step number 1, right here. This is the beginning of the end if you don't get it together. So if you're dealing with any of these, you're already past the point where it will just take prayer. You're past that point. Prayer is not going to just stop this stuff, right? So you're past it. The next step that you're going to go above is here. Angina. The narrowing of the arterial wall starts to harden. You start to lose oxygen. Thickness in the heart. Your heart becomes thick because it's being hypertension. Yeah, I'm continue going to be stressful. Luke 21. Let's see something about hypertension. Luke 21:26.
Why you say that? Yeah, I'm going to continue to be.
I'm saying that
Or you
because,
saying
no, that's not sarcasm. I'm just saying that because people will say, well, yeah, I can deal with it. I can cope with it. Okay, let's see how long you're going to be able to deal and cope with it. We saw the first chart, right? Let's move on. Let's see the second phase of this this thing called stress. Let's read this real quick.
Luke chapter 21, verse 26. Men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken.
So you are looking at the things of earth. Bill got to be paid. This got to be done. That got to be done. This got to be done. That, this, that, those, and them. Your heart is failing. What happens when your heart fails? Hypertension. But what happens with hypertension? Vision loss. Your eyeglass prescription gets stronger and stronger and stronger, right? Now, of course, with old age, the eyesight does go down a little, but this is at a rapid pace. Heart attack is the next one, right? Kidney disease or kidney failure. This is part of hypertension, which is part of stress. Stroke, heart failure, and sexual dysfunction. This is hypertension. Stroke, right? Let's talk about stroke for a second. Even though your heart is being attacked, stroke happens in your head. It happens in your brain. Heart arrhythmia, right? Sweating profusely, shortness of breath, dizziness, dry mouth, fainting, confusion, sign of a heart attack, stress, right? These aren't the killers yet. Tobit 13:14. Stroke, killer. Heart attack, killer. Heart failure, killer. Hypertension, which came from stress. Tobit 13:14.
Tobit chapter 13, verse 14. Oh, blessed are they which love thee, for they shall rejoice in thy peace. Blessed are they which have been sorrowful for all thy scourges, for they shall rejoice for thee, when they have seen all thy glory, and shall be glad forever.
Another one that's a killer, mitral valve prolapse. Don't know what your mitral valve is? Continue dealing with stress and you'll find out very, very soon what it is. It's a valve that's in your left ventricle, which is a part of your heart, right? The left ventricle and the left atrium is the mitral valve prolapse. A normal one, blood flows through, right? When it's prolapsed, your left ventricle starts to act like a balloon. When it starts to regurgitate, that means that it's basically one section of your heart, because your heart has 4 sections. One section of your heart is basically acting as if it is throwing up blood into the other sections of your heart. Everybody has thrown up before. You got sick. Your heart is doing that because you're dealing with stress. It's very, very deadly.
That's why sometimes when people have anxiety attack and panic attacks, you start throwing up, you can't stop. You're just throwing up. And then even when there's none in your stomach, you're dry heaving.
Have you ever heard of your heart throwing up? This is a very serious problem. It's very similar to an arrhythmic heart, but this is a much bigger problem because one section of the heart is not working and the other 3 are overstressed. Get rid of the stress, this prolapse disappears. When it gets to this, there is no tube that they put through the body to unblock it, when your left ventricle starts to throw up blood in your heart, bitterness and self-hatred, rebellion, bitterness, retaliation, control, strife, rejection. All of these are a form of stress. We're on Tobit 3 and 6 before we get to coronary disease, because that's another one dealing with stress. Tobit 3 and 6.
Tobit chapter 3, verse 6. Now therefore deal with me as seemeth best unto thee, and command my spirit to be taken from me, that I may be dissolved, and become earth. For it is profitable for me to die than to live, because I have heard false reproaches, and have much sorrow. Command therefore that I may now be delivered out of this distress, and go into the everlasting place. Turn not thy face away from me.
Once you get to this point, all this stuff is happening to your body. Coronary disease, coronary artery disease. That's when the coronary arteries are filled with what's called plaque. Right? Number one cause of heart attacks is coronary artery disease. But where is the plaque coming from? It comes from buildup of cholesterol in your body. Where does the cholesterol come from that's built up in your body? A lot of people will say, well, it's coming from the bad foods that you eat.
Oh my goodness. Let me just pray that out of her.
Okay? Coronary artery disease. Number one, heart attack. These are the killers. Then you get stroke. Stroke initially starts in the brain, but it gets to the heart. Once again, build up coronary artery disease, artery walls. But there's also scar tissue that's in the heart. Where did the scar tissue come from? Right here. Because you don't have a scar on your heart. I mean, you don't get a scratch on your heart. Scar tissue, you don't have surgery on your heart. And what I mean by that is that if you've never been cut on, there's no scar tissue. So where could the scar tissue have came from? Right here. This is the start of it. Continuing the stress, this is the end. Stress is a result of blood clot vessels. So the brain tissue is blood starved. Self-hatred, self-rejection, self-bitterness is still all from stroke. Heart disease, that comes from your heart being inflamed, and it's called myocarditis.
When my grandfather died, they said that he died because his heart was enlarged. His heart was big.
Mm-hmm.
And he died because of that.
It's an infectious bacteria. Sometimes it's a parasite that gets into the heart.
But he had a couple of strokes, remember?
Yeah.
Before that happened. Yeah.
Right? Or toxins that get into the heart. Autoimmune reaction gets to the heart. Remember, we talked about autoimmune diseases a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is all tying together. Right? Inflammatory cardiac diseases. Anger, rage, resentment. Rage seeks to do wrong, seeks to destroy people, seeks vengeance. Selfishness. resentment, indignation. All of these are starting off with stress, all of them, which leads to aneurysms. I'm going to say this. I don't know of anyone who has lived after a brain aneurysm. And this is a silent killer also, because you could be sitting there 1 minute talking and the next minute you get a brain aneurysm, you're gone. That's it.
It was
Stress. I had an uncle who died from a brain aneurysm. And guess what he was doing? Sitting there laughing and talking and having a good time with his wife. All of a sudden, he got a brain aneurysm. He was dead within a couple seconds. He was just sitting there talking and laughing it up. You remember my Uncle Kip? You remember?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. That's on your.
There was Karen's husband.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's what happened to him.
He had a brain aneurysm.
I remember, yeah.
And he would do anything. He moved us.
Yes,
he helped
he
us
did.
move one time. He would do anything.
He was a nice man. He was.
Anything. But he still dealt with stress.
Mm-hmm. He was passive.
He was passive. My aunt was aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
Very aggressive.
Yes, she was.
Right? Let's go Ephesians 4. And then we're going to show you something that you probably wouldn't even think is deadly, but it's very deadly. Ephesians 4.
Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26. Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. Neither give place to the devil.
You're not supposed to let the sun go down when you're dealing with issues, because the devil is going to bring sickness on you. So here's another one that's very deadly that people probably don't even think is deadly. Varicose veins. Varicose veins. You know that this is a type of aneurysm that's going on in your body?
It looks like it.
People who have varicose veins, these are many aneurysms that are going on in the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, it's here. If you have varicose veins, I guarantee you, you're dealing with stress and anxiety. And you have to get rid of that stress and anxiety, because these varicose veins are that's a telltale sign of a killer is about to happen. Another killer that people don't think of, hemorrhoids. We laugh at hemorrhoids. You got hemorrhoids, huh? There is a huge, this is huge when you're dealing with hemorrhoids, because this is another form of an aneurysm.
I remember when we were growing up, we would hear about the older people in our family would have hemorrhoids.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so bad that they would have to have them removed. They would have an operation, remember?
Lanced or removed.
You have to have an operation to get rid of them. That's how bad they would be. Because if not, you would bleed. They would bleed.
Right. There's two types. There's the outside hemorrhoids, and then there's the internal hemorrhoids. Mm-hmm. These are a form of aneurysms. The next aneurysm that you're going to have is going to be right up here. These are blood vessels. Vein inflammation. You ever see someone and their veins are just shot onto their arms? Your veins are inflamed. When your veins are inflamed, that leads to blood clots. And what are blood clots? Right? If the vein doesn't have blood to flow freely, then what do you think is going to happen? Blood just doesn't flow freely, and then it gets a blood clot, and a blood clot is just like your drain being backed up.
But the blood backs up.
The blood has nowhere to go. Thus, you deal with this. And because you deal with this is the next step. Strokes are tied to hemorrhoids. Strokes are tied to varicose veins. Anything that's attacking with the vein, any problems or issues with the vein leads to strokes and also leads to aneurysms. But where's the trigger? What is the trigger? It's stress. Pray we learned something tonight, but we're not done yet. There's a part 3. There's a third part to this. And this one will be the nail on the coffin.
And I don't know if you said it, but those varicose veins, that's a form of anger as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you said it, yeah.
No, I didn't say it, but it is. It's a form of anger. Aneurysm is a form of anger.
If you are a person and you're dealing with being passive, that is so deadly to your health because it can mess with your throat, with your tonsils. It's because you want to say stuff, but you don't, you hold it in. So you have to find a way to communicate. Instead of holding stuff in or being passive aggressive, so you hold it in and then when it come out, you just go off on everybody and you offend people. So you must learn how to communicate and communicate effectively.
Mm-hmm.
You must do it because holding it in is not doing you or anybody else any good, especially yourself. You're making yourself sick.
But you know, there is a flip side to this too, right? Because a person can hold it in, that'll bring stress. But what about a person who always is letting it out? That's also a form of stress too.
That's why I say you have to learn how to communicate and communicate effectively, not just throwing out words and being hurtful.
Right, because that's stress also.
You have to choose your word. If we're operating in the love of the Most High, you know, the 9 fruits of the Spirit, before you start blaring stuff out, you should sit down, ask the Holy Spirit to show you how to communicate, because you can start blaring stuff out and you can do damage.
Mm-hmm.
You can hurt a person.
Right.
So you ask Mother to show you how to communicate where that person, you and that person will get an understanding and get set free if you need to be set free.
Correct.
So we must do that because a lot of times it's like this. So if a person hurt you, right, and you have to tell this person, like, you hurt me when you did this, you just can't dump on that person and, oh, you feel better, but that person now is in bondage. That person is carrying that weight.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right. So you have to be responsible, whereas when you start communicating whatever it is that you're going through, that you're not going to cause wrath and you're not going to hurt somebody, that who all is involved is going to be able to understand and get set free or come to a agreement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that way your relationship with that person will become better and stronger, because our goal is to kick the devil out, period, out of your life, your marriage, your friendships with your brother and your sister, your relationship with your children. Don't give no place to the devil, period. We have to remember that the devil is our enemy. He's the one that's against us. He's the one that desires to see us dead and in the lake of fire with him and the demons and the fallen angels.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remember that we are not each other's enemy. We're not. And Ephesians 6 tells us that all day long. It's up to us whether we believe it. It's up to us whether we use that scripture effectively or not. if we use it, I'm not going to be mad at this sister over here because of something she did. And the devil's telling you, throwing fiery that she did that, she always doing it. You said, no, I'm not going to be upset with her. I'm going to be upset with you, devil, because I know it was you that was working through her that caused her to do that. And with marriages, what more to keep a husband and a wife at each other's throat? The marriage is over, the ministry is over, we're done. That so be it. I don't care. Well, you don't care, I don't care. Now that's craziness. No. Especially when Yeshua have given you a message saying, I have put you together.
Mm-hmm.
So the devil, you say, yeah, it's over, and he says it's over. Well, forget it, skip it, forget you. And the demons are sitting back clapping. But oh, you rotten devil. When those two people that really love the Most High, and they say, wait a minute, I see what you're trying to do here, but you're not going to win, you rotten devil. And they start praying and fighting for each other. The only one that's going to lose is the devil.
Right.
Every time. Every time.
Think this was deep? Wait till next week. Gets even deeper.
I know everybody I don't care if you're in this room or if you're on live stream, everybody is dealing with some type of stress. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's bills, relationship with your spouse, relationship with your children, even to the relationship with the Most High. You don't know if you're doing it right or not. You're stressed out because you don't know if you're serving Him the right way. Somebody is dealing with some type of stress, some way or another.
But you better get rid of it.
Because if you're not at that fifth stage, if it's not have grown into something huge, it's gonna grow into something huge. It's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna get sick and you're gonna go to the doctor and they're gonna run all these tests on you and then they're gonna start telling you your iron is low, you anemia, you this, you
Give
that.
pills.
You got diabetes, you got a mass on your liver, you got a mass on your kidneys, and or you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, and then all of a sudden your faith is shooken because in this truth you have seen the power of the Most High where He have healed people. People ain't walked in 2 or 3 years. They getting up out of wheelchairs, throwing the wheelchairs. Yeah. People getting healed of all type of cancer and AIDS, and the people's being prayed for, and they from death they back alive again. And then you wonder, why am I dealing with all this? Next thing you know, your faith is shaken.
Right.
You're unstable.
Because let's say you pray for one person, Satan remembers that, and he's going to retaliate. You pray for one person, he's going to remember it, he's going to retaliate. He's not going to stand in front of your face and slap your face. He's going to try to get back at you in ways that you probably won't even recognize him. Just like carbon monoxide. You can't smell it, but it's there.
It was a Judah family. It was like 8 or 9 of them. It was this man, and he had like 7 or 8 kids. They went to bed, and this man, he would like take his kids to school. It was just him and his 7 or 8 kids. Not 8 kids, it was 9 of them. It was him. And then, so the school hadn't heard from them in a couple of days. The other family members hadn't heard from them. And when they went over to the house and they broke in, all of them was laying in the bed dead because of the carbon monoxide poisoning. They went to sleep that night with the heat on, and they all went to sleep. They didn't have one of those detectors, because you can buy the carbon monoxide detectors. They didn't have one. And 9 people, him and his 8 children, was gone.
So with stress, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier on the chart that we had with the different things on the circle, if you're dealing with just one of those, you're already at stage 2. Stage 1 is your cortisol levels being imbalanced. You're past that point. You're at a point now, you're at stage 2. Stage 3 is only a matter of time. And stage 3 was your cardiovascular system going away, being compromised. Your immune system's already compromised. These things right here, this is stage 3. We're past stage 1. The chemicals in your body is already out of whack. You're dealing with anything from this circle right here. Any one of them.
You know, with anxiety attacks, they feel like you're having a heart attack.
Anxiety attack, that's number 1. This is number 2. You're dealing with any one of these. Headaches. Any one of these, you're at stage 2. Your fight's going to be harder. After this comes stage 3. Here, 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 here. This is stage 3. This is stage 4 in death. Here, here, and here.
Where that it says bitterness and something else. Oh, wait, go back. Here, rebellion, bitterness,
Right. All of this deals with stress.
Yeah. We have a comment here.
So you want to make sure that you don't get to stage 4. So that's death.
What stage is varicose veins under?
That's stage 3. Any type of aneurysm is stage 3, whether it's varicose veins, hemorrhoids, any type of inflammation to the veins. You're at stage 3. Your blood is not flowing right. Yes.
ARW said, elders, when I went to school in associate's program for psychology, I used to work for the mentally incapable. Then they put me with the mentally insane, but they used to live in a residential program. I became a house manager, the head counselor, and one particular individual. It was well off. What I didn't know until later on, until I got further into the case, his father was a grand dragon, and the KKK, well, his son stood something like 6'7", and he used to work for Metro North on the railroad train. I remember when I got the case, used to take counselors, especially women. Women counselors controlled by the glass door did ask me to stay one-on-one with him. I remember one night Lexington behavior, and that night when I was sleeping in the other room, asked about, he didn't put the book, he said, what, 12:31. 1 in the morning, the individual was in my room and you pulled he pulled a butcher knife. I remember I woke up, he was tapping over me with it. I didn't panic. I told him I thought I authoritatively did go back. He must be speaking it again, because he said on his phone he's speaking. So I guess he's saying that the women had asked him to stay and put it in the kitchen and get back in his bed. I can remember his eyes, something you won't forget. Nevertheless, I had authority to restrain him, and I believe he'll never forget that either. But I think he's still typing because he said, but.
Yeah, you never forget the first time that you come across a real demon and manifest in someone.
I remember when we were at the deliverance ministry, and you were having prayer service, and you were walking up and down the aisle, and that demon and that guy just snatched you.
Yeah.
And what did it say?
We want you back.
And then one time, we would pray for people, and the demon was like, I know you, I know who you are. They would tell Shepherd I know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then one time they started, like this one lady came towards me running like, ah! And right when she got in front of me, she would just slam hard on the floor, like bam, the whole building shook. She got up and ran towards me again. She got slammed again. I didn't have to touch her. I didn't have to do nothing. She just kept being slammed on the floor. And then one night, remember that guy had that tattoo of a joker on him?
Yeah.
And the lady and I were praying. And you were way over praying for somebody else. But the Holy Spirit told you to get over there. He had his fist balled up. He was going to try to attack us.
Try to attack the
women.
Who was that? Kelly, yeah.
He said from being in another house with another client and counselors, they did not read the signs. No, he probably would have told them women up. He probably would have killed all them women in there.
Probably.
But that's the same. We were street preaching. We were street preaching one time, and this Judah guy came up, and he had like a dagger on his side, didn't he?
Yeah.
But guess what? He could not. He had it in a holster on his side. He couldn't even pull it out, could he? He didn't even get a chance to get it out. He came walking up, but whatever the Holy Spirit was, whatever Yeshua was doing, that guy couldn't even get it out to pull it out on us.
No.
Yeah, but you have to be mindful. You have to be watchful, even walking down the street.
Right. All right. So next week, more fear, stress, and psychology. This will be the last part. Then we're going to go into diseases, spiritually rooted diseases. Okay? Join us tomorrow for live stream at 3 p.m.
If you have enjoyed this teaching and found it educational, please like, share, and subscribe for future teaching. Also, hit the notification bell so that you get notified when we do go live.
Kwame Yasharella.
Paula.
Oh, he just sent an. I remember telling my wife, Elder, that I couldn't do this anymore, and that counseling wears you out. So I got back